Email, bdia@buddhanet.net. Website, www.buddhanet.net. Buddha Dharma Education Association Inc. By Narada Mahathera. Copyright 1982 Buddhist Publication Society. Buddhist Publication Society. P.O. Box 61, 54, Sangharaja Mawatha, Kandy, Sri Lanka. For free distribution only. You may print copies of this work for your personal use. You may reformat and redistribute this work for use on computers and computer networks, provided that you charge no fees for its distribution or use. Otherwise, all rights reserved. This edition was transcribed from the print edition in 1995 by Bradford Griffith under the auspices of the DharmaNet Dharma Book Transcription Project, with the kind permission of the Buddhist Publication Society. Contents. Preface. Chapter I. The Buddha. Chapter 2. The Dhamma, is it a philosophy? Chapter 3. Is it a religion? Chapter 4. Is Buddhism an ethical system? Chapter V. Some salient features of Buddhism. Chapter 6. Kamma or the law of moral causation. Chapter 7. Rebirth. Chapter 8. Paticca Samuppada. Chapter 9. Anatta or soullessness. Chapter X Nibbana. Chapter 11. The path to Nibbana. Appendix. Concentration on respiration, Anapanasati. Meditation on loving kindness, Metta. Perfections, Paramai. Preface. Buddhism in a nutshell first appeared in 1933. Since then several editions were published by various philanthropic gentlemen for free distribution. For a fuller exposition of the subjects dealt with here, readers are kindly requested to read the revised and enlarged edition of the Buddha and his teachings published in 1980. Permission may freely be obtained to reprint or to translate this book. Narada Vihirarama Colombo, Sri Lanka. May 7, 1982. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. Chapter I. The Buddha. On the full moon day of May, in the year 623 BC, there was born in the district of Nepal an Indian Sakya prince named Siddhartha Gautama, who was destined to be the greatest religious teacher in the world. Brought up in the lap of luxury, receiving an education befitting a prince, he married and had a son. His contemplative nature and boundless compassion did not permit him to enjoy the fleeting material pleasures of a royal household. He knew no woe, but he felt a deep pity for sorrowing humanity. Amidst comfort and prosperity, he realized the universality of sorrow. The palace, with all its worldly amusements, was no longer a congenial place for the compassionate prince. The time was ripe for him to depart. Realizing the vanity of sensual enjoyments, in his 29th year, he renounced all worldly pleasures and donning the simple yellow garb of an ascetic, alone, penniless, wandered forth in search of truth and peace. It was an unprecedented historic renunciation, for he renounced not in his old age but in the prime of manhood, not in poverty but in plenty. As it was the belief in the ancient days that no deliverance could be gained unless one leads a life of strict asceticism, he strenuously practiced all forms of severe austerities. Adding vigil after vigil, and penance after penance, he made a superhuman effort for 6 long years. His body was reduced to almost a skeleton. The more he tormented his body, the farther his goal receded from him. The painful, unsuccessful austerities which he strenuously practiced proved absolutely futile. He was now fully convinced, through personal experience, of the utter futility of self-mortification which weakened his body and resulted in lassitude of spirit. Benefiting by this invaluable experience of his, he finally decided to follow an independent course, avoiding the two extremes of self-indulgence and self-mortification. The former retards one's spiritual progress, and the latter weakens one's intellect. The new way which he himself discovered was the middle path, Mahihima Patipada, which subsequently became one of the salient characteristics of his teaching. One happy morning, while he was deeply absorbed in meditation, unaided and unguided by any supernatural power and solely relying on his efforts and wisdom, he eradicated all defilements, purified himself, and, realizing things as they truly are, attained enlightenment, Buddhahood, at the age of 35. He was not born a Buddha one, but he became a Buddha by his own striving. As the perfect embodiment of all the virtues he preached, endowed with deep wisdom commensurate with his boundless compassion, he devoted the remainder of his precious life to serve humanity both by example and precept, dominated by no personal motive whatever. After a very successful ministry of 45 long years, the Buddha, as every other human being, succumbed to the inexorable law of change, and finally passed away in his 80th year, exhorting his disciples to regard his doctrine as their teacher. The Buddha was a human being. As a man he was born, as a man he lived, and as a man his life came to an end. Though a human being, he became an extraordinary man, Akarya Manasa, but he never arrogated to himself divinity. The Buddha laid stress on this important point and left no room whatever for anyone to fall into the error of thinking that he was an immortal divine being. Fortunately, there is no deification in the case of the Buddha. It should, however, be remarked that there was no teacher, ever so godless as the Buddha, yet none so godlike. The Buddha is neither an incarnation of the Hindu god Vishnu, as is believed by some, nor is he a savior who freely saves others by his personal salvation. The Buddha exhorts his disciples to depend on themselves for their deliverance, for both purity and defilement depend on oneself. Clarifying his relationship with his followers and emphasizing the importance of self-reliance and individual striving, the Buddha plainly states, "You should exert yourselves, the Tathagatas too are only teachers." The Buddhas point out the path, and it is left for us to follow that path to obtain our purification. To depend on others for salvation is negative, but to depend on oneself is positive. Dependence on others means a surrender of one's effort. In exhorting his disciples to be self-dependent, the Buddha says in the Parinibbana Sutta, "Be ye islands unto yourselves, be ye a refuge unto yourselves, seek not for refuge in others." These significant words are self-elevating. They reveal how vital is self-exertion to accomplish one's object and, how superficial and futile it is to seek redemption through benignant saviors and to crave for illusory happiness in an afterlife through the propitiation of imaginary gods or by irresponsive prayers and meaningless sacrifices. Furthermore, the Buddha does not claim the monopoly of Buddhahood, which, as a matter of fact, is not the prerogative of any specially graced person. He reached the highest possible state of perfection any person could aspire to, and without the close fist of a teacher he revealed the only straight path that leads thereto. According to the teaching of the Buddha, anybody may aspire to that supreme state of perfection if he makes the necessary exertion. The Buddha does not condemn men by calling they wretched sinners, but, on the contrary, he gladdens them by saying that they are pure in heart at conception. In his opinion, the world is not wicked but is deluded by ignorance. Instead of disheartening his followers and reserving that exalted state only to himself, he encourages and induces them to emulate him, for Buddhahood is latent in all. In one sense, all are potential Buddhas. One who aspires to become a Buddha is called a Bodhisattva, which, literally, means a wisdom being. This Bodhisattva ideal is the most beautiful and the most refined course of life that has ever been presented to this egocentric world, for what is nobler than a life of service and purity? As a man he attained Buddhahood and proclaimed to the world the latent inconceivable possibilities and the creative power of man. Instead of placing an unseen Almighty God over man who arbitrarily controls the destinies of mankind, and making him subservient to a supreme power, he raised the worth of mankind. It was he who taught that man can gain his deliverance and purification by his own exertion without depending on an external god or mediating priests. It was he who taught the egocentric world the noble ideal of selfless service. It was he who revolted against the degrading caste system and taught equality of mankind and gave equal opportunities for all to distinguish themselves in every walk of life. He declared that the gates of success and prosperity were open to all in every condition of life, high or low, saint or criminal, who would care to turn a new leaf and aspire to perfection. Irrespective of caste, color, or rank, he established for both deserving men and women a democratically constituted celibate order. He did not force his followers to be slaves either to his teachings or to himself, but granted complete freedom of thought. He comforted the bereaved by his consoling words. He ministered to the sick that were deserted. He helped the poor that were neglected. He ennobled the lives of the deluded, purified the corrupted lives of criminals. He encouraged the feeble, united the divided, enlightened the ignorant, clarified the mystic, guided the benighted, elevated the base, dignified the noble. Both rich and poor, saints and criminals loved him alike. Despotic and righteous kings, famous and obscure princes and nobles, generous and stingy millionaires, haughty and humble scholars, destitute paupers, downtrodden scavengers, wicked murderers, despised courtesans, all benefited by his words of wisdom and compassion. His noble example was a source of inspiration to all. His serene and peaceful countenance was a soothing sight to the pious eyes. His message of peace and tolerance was welcomed by all with indescribable joy and was of eternal benefit to everyone who had the fortune to hear and practice it. Wherever his teachings penetrated, it left an indelible impression upon the character of the respective peoples. The cultural advancement of all the Buddhist nations was mainly due to his sublime teachings. In fact, all Buddhist countries like Ceylon, Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Nepal, Tibet, China, Mongolia, Korea, Japan, etc., grew up in the cradle of Buddhism. Though more than 2,500 years have elapsed since the passing away of this greatest teacher, yet his unique personality exerts a great influence on all who come to know him. His iron will, profound wisdom, universal love, boundless compassion, selfless service, historic renunciation, perfect purity, magnetic personality, exemplary methods employed to propagate the teachings, and his final success. All these factors have compelled about 1/5 of the population of the world today to hail the Buddha as their supreme teacher. Paying a glowing tribute to the Buddha, Sri Radhakrishnan states, "In Gautama the Buddha we have a mastermind from the East second to none so far as the influence on the thought and life of the human race is concerned, and, sacred to all as the founder of a religious tradition whose hold is hardly less wide and deep than any other. He belongs to the history of the world's thought, to the general inheritance of all cultivated men, for, judged by intellectual integrity, moral earnestness, and spiritual insight, he is undoubtedly one of the greatest figures in history. In the three greatest men in history," H. G. Wells writes, "in the Buddha you see clearly a man, simple, devout, lonely, battling for light, a vivid human personality, not a myth. He too gave a message to mankind universal in character. Many of our best modern ideas are in closest harmony with it. All the miseries and discontents are due," he taught, "to selfishness. Before a man can become serene he must cease to live for his senses or himself. Then he merges into a great being." Buddha in different language called men to self-forgetfulness 500 years before Christ. In some ways he is nearer to us and our needs. He was more lucid upon our individual importance and service than Christ and less ambiguous upon the question of personal immortality. Saint Hilaire remarks, "The perfect model of all the virtues he preaches. His life has not a stain upon it." Fosboul says, "The more I know of him, the more I love him." A humble follower of his would say, "The more I know him, the more I love him, the more I love him, the more I know him." Chapter 2, The Dhamma, is it a philosophy? The non-aggressive, moral, and philosophical system expounded by the Buddha, which demands no blind faith from its adherents, expounds no dogmatic creeds, encourages no superstitious rites and ceremonies, but advocates a golden mean that guides a disciple through pure living and pure thinking to the gain of supreme wisdom and deliverance from all evil, is called the Dhamma and is popularly known as Buddhism. The all-merciful Buddha has passed away, but the sublime Dhamma which he unreservedly bequeathed to humanity, still exists in its pristine purity. Although the Master has left no written records of his teachings, his distinguished disciples preserved them by committing to memory and transmitting them orally from generation to generation. Immediately after his demise 500 Chifa Rahas 3 versed in the Dhamma 4 and Vinaya 5 held a convocation to rehearse the doctrine as was originally taught by the Buddha. Venerable Anandathera, who enjoyed the special privilege of hearing all the discourses, recited the Dhamma, while the Venerable Upali recited the Vinaya. The Tipitaka was compiled and arranged in its present form by those Arahas of old. During the reign of the pious Sinhala king Vatagamani Abhaya, about 83 BC, the Tipitaka was, for the first time in the history of Buddhism, committed to writing on palm leaves, ola, in Ceylon. This voluminous Tipitaka, which contains the essence of the Buddha's teaching, is estimated to be about 11 times the size of the Bible. A striking contrast between the Tipitaka and the Bible is that the former is not a gradual development like the latter. As the word itself implies, the Tipitaka consists of 3 baskets. They are the basket of discipline, Vinaya Pitaka, the basket of discourses, Sutta Pitaka, and the basket of ultimate doctrine, Abhidhamma Pitaka. The Vinaya Pitaka, which is regarded as the sheet anchor to the oldest historic celibate order, the Sangha, mainly deals with rules and regulations which the Buddha promulgated, as occasion arose, for the future discipline of the order of monks, bhikkhus, and nuns, bhikkhunis. It described in detail the gradual development of the sasana, dispensation. An account of the life and ministry of the Buddha is also given. Indirectly, it reveals some important and interesting information about ancient history, Indian customs, arts, science, etc. The Vinaya Pitaka consists of the 5 following books. Vibhanga. 1 Parajika Pali major offences. 2 Pasadiyya Pali minor offences. Khandaka. 3 Mahavagga Pali greater section. 4 Kalavagga Pali shorter section. 5 Parivara Pali epitome of the Vinaya. The Sutta Pitaka consists chiefly of discourses, delivered by the Buddha himself on various occasions. There are also a few discourses delivered by some of his distinguished disciples, such as the Venerable Sariputta, Ananda, Moggallana, etc., included in it. It is like a book of prescriptions, as the sermons embodied therein were expounded to suit the different occasions and the temperaments of various persons. There may be seemingly contradictory statements, but they should not be misconstrued, as they were opportunely uttered by the Buddha to suit a particular purpose. For instance, to the self-same question he would maintain silence, when the inquirer is merely foolishly inquisitive, or give a detailed reply when he knew the inquirer to be an earnest seeker. Most of the sermons were intended mainly for the benefit of bhikkhus, and they deal with the holy life and with the expositions of the doctrine. There are also several other discourses which deal with both the material and moral progress of his lay followers. This Pitaka is divided into 5 Nikayas or collections, viz. 1 Dingha Nikaya, collection of long discourses. 2 Mahihima Nikaya, collection of middle-length discourses. 3 Samayutta Nikaya, collection of kindred sayings. 4 Anguttara Nikaya, collection of discourses arranged in accordance with numbers. 5 Khuddaka Nikaya, smaller collection. The 5th is subdivided into 15 books. 1 Khuddaka Patha, shorter texts. 2 Dhammapada, way of truth. 3 Udana, paeans of joy. 4 Iti Vataka, thus said discourses. 5 Sutanipada, collected discourses. 6 Vimana Vathu, stories of celestial mansions. 7 Pita Vathu, stories of Pitas. 8 Tharagatha, psalms of the brethren. 9 Tharigatha, psalms of the sisters. 10 Jataka, birth stories. 11 Nidasa, expositions. 12 Padasamhita Magga, analytical knowledge. 13 Apadana, lives of Arahas. 14 Buddhavamsa, the history of the Buddha. 15 Karya Pitaka, modes of conduct. The Abhidhamma Pitaka is the most important and the most interesting of the 3, containing as it does the profound philosophy of the Buddha's teaching in contrast to the illuminating and simpler discourses in the Sutta Pitaka. In the Sutta Pitaka is found the conventional teaching, Vaharadasena, while in the Abhidhamma Pitaka is found the ultimate teaching, Paramathadasena. To the wise, Abhidhamma is an indispensable guide, to the spiritually evolved, an intellectual treat, and to research scholars, food for thought. Consciousness is defined. Thoughts are analyzed and classified chiefly from an ethical standpoint. Mental states are enumerated. The composition of each type of consciousness is set forth in detail. How thoughts arise is minutely described. Irrelevant problems that interest mankind but having no relation to one's purification are deliberately set aside. Matter is summarily discussed. Fundamental units of matter, properties of matter, sources of matter, relationship between mind and matter, are explained. The Abhidhamma investigates mind and matter, the two composite factors of the so-called being, to help the understanding of things as they truly are, and a philosophy has been developed on those lines. Based on that philosophy, an ethical system has been evolved, to realize the ultimate goal, Nibbana. The Abhidhamma Pitaka consists of 7 books. 1 Dhammasangani, classification of Dhammas. 2 Vibhanga, the book of divisions. 3 Kathavathu, points of controversy. 4 Pugalapanati, descriptions of individuals. 5 Ditthakatha, discussion with reference to elements. 6 Yamaka, the book of pairs. 7 Padhana, the book of relations. In the Tipitaka one finds milk for the babe and meat for the strong, for the Buddha taught his doctrine both to the masses and to the intelligentsia. The sublime Dhamma enshrined in these sacred texts, deals with truths and facts, and is not concerned with theories and philosophies which may be accepted as profound truths today only to be thrown overboard tomorrow. The Buddha has presented us with no new astounding philosophical theories, nor did he venture to create any new material science. He explained to us what is within and without so far as it concerns our emancipation, as ultimately expounded a path of deliverance, which is unique. Incidentally, he has, however, forestalled many a modern scientist and philosopher. Schopenhauer in his World as Will and Idea has presented the truth of suffering and its cause in a Western garb. Spinoza, though he denies not the existence of a permanent reality, asserts that all phenomenal existence is transitory. In his opinion, sorrow is conquered by finding an object of knowledge which is not transient, not ephemeral, but is immutable, permanent, everlasting. Berkeley proved that the so-called indivisible atom is a metaphysical fiction. Hume, after a relentless analysis of the mind, concluded that consciousness consists of fleeting mental states. Bergson advocates the doctrine of change. Professor James refers to a stream of consciousness. The Buddha expounded these doctrines of transiency, anicca, sorrow, dukkha, and no soul, anatta, some 2,500 years ago while he was sojourning in the valley of the Ganges. It should be understood that the Buddha did not preach all that he knew. On one occasion while the Buddha was passing through a forest, he took a handful of leaves and said, "O Bhikkhus, what I have taught is comparable to the leaves in my hand. What I have not taught is comparable to the amount of leaves in the forest." He taught what he deemed was absolutely essential for one's purification, making no distinction between an esoteric and exoteric doctrine. He was characteristically silent on questions irrelevant to his noble mission. Buddhism no doubt accords with science, but both should be treated as parallel teachings, since one deals mainly with material truths while the other confines itself to moral and spiritual truths. The subject matter of each is different. The Dhamma he taught is not merely to be preserved in books, nor is it a subject to be studied from an historical or literary standpoint. On the contrary, it is to be learned and put into practice in the course of one's daily life, for without practice one cannot appreciate the truth. The Dhamma is to be studied, and more to be practiced, and above all to be realized. Immediate realization is its ultimate goal. As such, the Dhamma is compared to a raft which is meant for the sole purpose of escaping from the ocean of birth and death, samsara. Buddhism, therefore, cannot strictly be called a mere philosophy because it is not merely the love of, inducing the search after, wisdom. Buddhism may approximate a philosophy, but it is very much more comprehensive. Philosophy deals mainly with knowledge and is not concerned with practice, whereas Buddhism lays special emphasis on practice and realization. Chapter 3 Is it a religion? It is neither a religion in the sense in which that word is commonly understood, for it is not a system of faith and worship owing any allegiance to a supernatural being. Buddhism does not demand blind faith from its adherents. Here mere belief is dethroned and is substituted by confidence based on knowledge, which, in Pali, is known as saddha. The confidence placed by a follower on the Buddha is like that of a sick person in a noted physician, or a student in his teacher. A Buddhist seeks refuge in the Buddha because it was he who discovered the path of deliverance. A Buddhist does not seek refuge in the Buddha with the hope that he will be saved by his personal purification. The Buddha gives no such guarantee. It is not within the power of a Buddha to wash away the impurities of others. One could neither purify nor defile another. The Buddha, as teacher, instructs us, but we ourselves are directly responsible for our purification. Although a Buddhist seeks refuge in the Buddha, he does not make any self-surrender. Nor does a Buddhist sacrifice his freedom of thought by becoming a follower of the Buddha. He can exercise his own free will and develop his knowledge even to the extent of becoming a Buddha himself. The starting point of Buddhism is reasoning or understanding, or, in other words, samadhi. To the seekers of truth the Buddha says, "Do not accept anything on mere hearsay, i.e., thinking that thus have we heard it from a long time. Do not accept anything by mere tradition, i.e., thinking that it has thus been handed down through many generations. Do not accept anything on account of mere rumors, i.e., by believing what others say without any investigation. Do not accept anything just because it accords with your scriptures. Do not accept anything by mere suppositions. Do not accept anything by mere inference. Do not accept anything by merely considering the reasons. Do not accept anything merely because it agrees with your preconceived notions. Do not accept anything merely because it seems acceptable, i.e., thinking that as the speaker seems to be a good person his words should be accepted. Do not accept anything thinking that the ascetic is respected by us, therefore it is right to accept his word. But when you know for yourselves these things are immoral, these things are blameworthy, these things are censured by the wise, these things, when performed and undertaken conduce to ruin and sorrow, then indeed do you reject them. When you know for yourselves these things are moral, these things are blameless, these things are praised by the wise, these things, when performed and undertaken, conduce to well-being and happiness, then do you live acting accordingly." These inspiring words of the Buddha still retain their original force and freshness. Though there is no blind faith, one might argue whether there is no worshipping of images etc. in Buddhism. Buddhists do not worship an image expecting worldly or spiritual favors, but pay their reverence to what it represents. An understanding Buddhist, in offering flowers and incense to an image, designedly makes himself feel that he is in the presence of the living Buddha and thereby gains inspiration from his noble personality and breathes deep his boundless compassion. He tries to follow his noble example. The bo tree is also a symbol of enlightenment. These external objects of reverence are not absolutely necessary, but they are useful as they tend to concentrate one's attention. An intellectual person could dispense with them as he could easily focus his attention and visualize the Buddha. For our own good, and out of gratitude, we pay such external respect, but what the Buddha expects from his disciple is not so much obeisance as the actual observance of his teachings. The Buddha says he honors me best who practices my teaching best. He who sees the Dhamma sees me. With regard to images, however, Count Kevserling remarks, I see nothing more grand in this world than the image of the Buddha. It is an absolutely perfect embodiment of spirituality in the visible domain. Furthermore, it must be mentioned that there are not petitional or intercessory prayers in Buddhism. However much we may pray to the Buddha, we cannot be saved. The Buddha does not grant favors to those who pray to him. Instead of petitional prayers, there is meditation that leads to self-control, purification and enlightenment. Meditation is neither a silent reverie nor keeping the mind blank. It is an active striving. It serves as a tonic both to the heart and the mind. The Buddha not only speaks of the futility of offering prayers but also disparages a slave mentality. A Buddhist should not pray to be saved, but should rely on himself and win his freedom. Prayers take the character of private communications, selfish bargaining with God. It seeks for objects of earthly ambitions and inflames the sense of self. Meditation on the other hand is self-change. Sri Radhakrishnan. In Buddhism there is not, as in most other religions, an almighty God to be obeyed and feared. The Buddha does not believe in a cosmic potentate, omniscient and omnipresent. In Buddhism there are no divine revelations or divine messengers. A Buddhist is, therefore, not subservient to any higher supernatural power which controls his destinies and which arbitrarily rewards and punishes. Since Buddhists do not believe in revelations of a divine being, Buddhism does not claim the monopoly of truth and does not condemn any other religion. But Buddhism recognizes the infinite latent possibilities of man and teaches that man can gain deliverance from suffering by his own efforts independent of divine help or mediating priests. Buddhism cannot, therefore, strictly be called a religion because it is neither a system of faith and worship, nor the outward act or form by which men indicate their recognition of the existence of a god or gods having power over their own destiny to whom obedience, service, and honor are due. If, by religion, is meant a teaching which takes a view of life that is more than superficial, a teaching which looks into life and not merely at it, a teaching which furnishes men with a guide to conduct that is in accord with this its in-look, a teaching which enables those who give it heed to face life with fortitude and death with serenity, 6. Or a system to get rid of the ills of life, then it is certainly a religion of religions.